Engineering ethics in oil and gas industry. Cases studies from Qatar. Thank you for listening to my presentation and welcome everyone. I will focus on engineering ethics, especially within Qatar's dynamic oil and gas sector. This industry, as you know, is one of the backbones of Qatar's economy, and the decision engineers make here carry great weight. We will walk through three cases studies to understand how ethical codes provide guidance in difficult situations. Let's start. Engineering ethics are the moral principles that guide professional practice. They go beyond compliance with laws and regulations. They focus on doing what is just fair and beneficial for the society. In Qatar, the oil and gas industry presents many challenges, for example, like tight deadlines, environmental concerns, and cooperate pressures. Also, ethical dilemmas in this field can impact not just companies, but also human lives, communities, and natural ecosystem. That's why it is essential to understand and apply ethical principles to every engineering decision. Ethical decisions are not made in a vacuum. They are informed by established codes of conduct. Globally, we refer to the NSPE codes of ethics. It promotes the welfare of the public, truthfulness, and integrity. In Qatar, locally, the Qatar Engineering Committee Codes of Conduct addresses national values and prioritize including sustainability, fairness, and social responsibility. Both codes emphasize holding the safety and welfare of the public, being honest, and avoiding conflicts of interest. So, case study number one, safety compromise to meet deadlines. Let's start with our first case. A project manager at a major offshore drilling site and under pressure to meet a tight production deadline. To avoid delays, they approve bypassing some routine safety inspection and skip final pressure test on a pipeline section. On paper, everything looks efficient, but skipping these steps introduces a serious safety risk to the entire operation. So, case study number one, ethical dilemmas. So one example of the ethical dilemmas, the manager faces a dilemma: deliver the project on time and impress senior management, or delay the project to conduct necessary safety protocols. So from a business perspective, delays could mean financial penalties, but from an ethical standpoint, any potential failure due to skipped safety procedure could lead to environmental disaster. Injuries are also another problem. So this situation highlights the tension between the productivity and ethical responsibility. So applicable ethical codes. The case touches on one of the most fundamental ethical principles, which is public safety. The NSPE code stated that engineers must hold safety, health, and welfare of the public. Similarly to the Qatar Code prohibit any action that jeopardize safety. These codes remind us that safety should never be sacrificed for a profit or any personal interest. Correct ethical behavior. The project manager should have taken the following steps: Clearly communicate the importance of safety checks to all stakeholders. Also refuses to proceed without completing all mandatory inspections. Also documenting all safety-related decisions and concerns. If needed, escalate the issue to an external safety committee or regulator. So ethical leadership mean making unpopular decisions if they are right, if they are the right ones. Learning outcomes. For this case, we learned that safety should always override deadlines. Documenting and speaking up is an ethical duty. Ethical engineers protect more than just company assets. They protect lives and reputations. Case study number 2, conflict of interest in procurement. In this case, a procurement officer awards uh, a contract for oil rig maintenance to a company owned by his cousin. This issue, the company is underqualified. The decision is influenced more by family ties than by objective evaluation. So this kind of favoritism, while common in some cultures, can lead to um, inefficiency, poor work quality, or safety hazards. So the ethical dilemma that might happen in this situation, for example, the officer is torn between personal loyalty to his family and his professional duty to the company. So he might help his relative, like for example, while helping his relative may seem harmless, but also it raises serious concerns, like what if the relative's company failed to deliver? What if the competitors find out and sue? That's why ethical decisions must be taken very seriously, not based on family relationships. So applicable ethical codes, the NSPE code warns against deceptive acts and emphasizes transparency. Also, the Qatar code states that personal interest must not interfere with the professional responsibilities. This situation represents a clear violation of both. So the ethical course of action includes disclosing any personal relationships to supervisors or the ethics committee. Also, recuse recusing oneself from decisions involving relatives. Also ensure transparency in the process. So the key lessons: conflict of interest can destroy trust and fairness. Also, disclosure and transparency are ethical tools, not just requirements. Also, personal and professional boundaries must remain clear in engineering. Study case number 3. So here, engineers working on a new oil pipeline that the proposed route passes close to the protected marine habitat. Environmental assessments show a potential risk that coral no, show potential risk to the coral reefs and marine species. The engineers team raises concerns, but project manager downplay the findings to avoid extra cost and delays. This issue is swept under the rug. So The ethical dilemma in this case, the engineers must choose between staying silent and following orders, or raising their voice and potentially facing professional backlash. So ignoring the risk could cause a environmental problem or environmental harm, but challenging management might lead to job consequences. This is a very common ethical dilemma where the environmental responsibility clashes with the company's interest. So the applicable ethical codes, the NSPE states that engineers must be objective and issue truthful reports. Also, the Qatar Code emphasizes the importance of sustainability and protecting the environment. These codes obligates engineers to take actions while ecosystems are at risk. So, correct ethical behavior. The engineers should comply and present objective data to support their concerns. Also recommend alternative routes or construction techniques, or maybe escalate the issue to environmental regulators if um, if the internal channels fail. However, silence in the face of harm is unethical. Speaking up is a professional and moral duty. So this case shows that environmental ethics are part of engineering responsibilities. Also, ethical behavior requires long-term thinking. Also, courage is often needed to protect both nature and public trust. So, my final thoughts of the case studies shows that ethical challenges are part of everyday engineering work. Also, in Qatar's oil and gas sector, where the projects are large and they have a very high risk, ethical behavior is very essential. The codes of ethics are more than just guidelines, they are commitments to society. And upholding them builds a better and safer and more sustainable future. Thank you for your attention. I hope these cases studies helped bring ethical decisions making to life. Uh, and thank you.